Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. You've handed us a stack of sources detailing a really complex world of mages, prophecies, and some pretty desperate rescues.
Oh, absolutely. It's high-stakes adventure against truly existential threats.
Yeah, this isn't just your standard good versus evil story. This is about the shifting morality of having immense power, the crushing burden of responsibility.
And the terrifying logistics of it all. I mean, trying to find one lost friend across an entire hostile empire while the world is literally, and I mean literally, starting to tear itself apart at the seams.
It's a lot.
Indeed. Our mission is clear. We're going to guide you through these latest and, frankly, often brutal chapters of this whole saga. We're tracking key figures here.
Right, James. The unlikely mage who is just grappling daily with the destructive, life-sucking nature of his own abilities.
And Miko, the newly elevated high priest who has to, suddenly embody centuries of a faith that was all but forgotten.
Yeah, and they're navigating political instability, a literal expanding horror in the form of this grayness, and the ultimate, almost suicidal machinations required to defeat these dark gods.
So, yeah, a lot to get through.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because even though our heroes just achieved this massive military victory, new existential crises just erupted before the dust could even settle.
Constantly.
We need to understand the new, really fragile political landscape at Zyrn, dive deep into the precise, terrifying, and very specifically non-magical nature of the spreading grayness.
And then follow this perilous, multi-stage, deep cover operation.
The one required to find their friend Tinok.
A search that takes them right into the heart of Dmon-Li's highest seat of power.
So we begin our dive right in the political and military aftermath of a huge victory for the Alliance. So the narrative opens with this sense of, guarded triumph at Zyrn. This fortress, which for so long was the northern anchor of the Empire, has finally fallen.
Right, to the Alliance, spearheaded by the political maneuvering of Lord Petherian. But the sources make it really clear that while this was a victory, it was less of a true conquest and more like they just filled a strategic vacuum.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Zyrn had been stripped of almost all its men by the Empire. They thought they'd secured the south and moved their forces elsewhere, so the fortress fell quickly. But that sudden expansion of territory immediately exposed a critical structural weakness in Madoc.
They just don't have enough people.
Exactly. A severe shortage of capable military forces to hold and govern the land they just took.
And this weakness becomes evident right away, doesn't it? With the assignment they give to one of their most valuable but politically complicated allies.
You mean Blackhawk, Ilyn?
Yeah.
He's immediately installed at Zyrn. And this isn't just a military posting. He's granted the title Keeper of the Southern Reaches.
Which sounds very grand.
It does, but it instantly makes him a newly minted nobleman with huge tracts of land in the countryside. Land which he, plans to distribute among the raiders who fought with him since the beginning.
That title, though, Keeper of the Southern Reaches, if you read between the lines, it sounds like a move of desperation, doesn't it?
It's completely a desperate measure. Ilyn's new role highlights that the entire southern defense of Madoc now rests on Blackhawk's substantial, seasoned, and, let's be honest, somewhat independent force.
Lord Petherian had no other choice. He had to rely on Ilyn and his raiders to hold that border.
And this reliance means the Empire's hold is sort of psychologically broken in the north, but the threat is still everywhere. It's omnipresent.
So Ilyn and the Alliance, they understand that despite this tactical victory, the core evil, the source of centuries of aggression, remains the Empire itself.
An empire that has been continuously just swallowing its neighbors.
And that long history of aggression is so crucial to the whole prophetic element of the story. James points this out, right? He says that history is what makes interpreting the prophecies so difficult.
It's a huge problem, even for the learned priests of Morcyth and Azran. How do you distinguish a normal, run-of-the-mill crisis from the prophesied one?
The apocalypse.
Exact.
The answer apparently lies with Brother Willim and his brothers.
Well, they're now experiencing this internal prophetic urgency. Despite all the historical ambiguity, they are convinced the time of the gardener's coming. The legendary savior is now.
And we learn that Brother Willim had been holding back certain prophecies from James.
He had. He withheld them until James specifically asked, which indicates that some combination of Jones's current strength, Miko's newfound faith, and just the escalating situation, it satisfied the divine requirements for this knowledge to be shared.
So the continuous expansion of the Empire is kind of the terrifying backdrop that proves they're on the right track.
It validates their search for definitive apocalyptic signs.
And, well, those definitive signs arrived with devastating physical speed.
We shift immediately from the, high politics of Zyrn right down to the grim reality on the ground.
A recent battlefield near the Madak border.
Exactly. Here, we find Zyrn, who we've met before, and other scavengers. They're risking everything to loot the dead, finding slain Northerners, presumably Blackhawk's band, alongside soldiers of the Empire.
They're working like mad, aren't they? Stripping the dead, loading up wagons with armor, weapons, anything useful.
But the sources note the main reason for their haste isn't just greed. It's pure, deep-seated fear.
They are terrified of being there when the sun goes down.
They know what moves in the dark.
And their caution is tragically warranted.
Their scavenging is halted by an event that goes way beyond normal warfare. Far away, Zyrn is struck by this visceral premonition of doom just from seeing an ominous sign hurtling across the sky.
And what a sign. It's described as a greenish ball of fire arcing through the sky.
And it's heading for a purplish glowing area on the ground. This isn't a natural comet.
No. We find out the impact of the green fire is actually absorbed by the magic of 4 priests who use that energy to open a way for something terrible.
This is the moment a monstrosity from the plane of Dmon-Li enters their world, made possible by 4 priests and Ozdrath, Dmon-Li's high follower.
And following that purple glow, a truly mammoth hand, described as being the size of a wagon, just emerges from the ground.
Followed by the rest of the creature, and Ozdrath, filled with triumph, realizes the barrier between their plane and Dmon-Li's has been thinned to almost nothing.
Okay, here's a critical detail, because the whole story's urgency hinges on it. The plan is for Dmon-Li's lord, this giant, to cross over completely when a specific celestial event occurs.
An event the sources call the moment the Shroud of Killian next blinds the giant's eye.
We need to stop and define that. What is the Shroud of Killian? It's not an artifact, is it?
No, not at all. It's not an easy timeline to track either. It's a fixed yet sporadic celestial schedule based on Dmon-Li's cosmology. The giant's eye refers to the great eye that watches over the temple of Dmon-Li. It acts as its primary guardian and energy conduit.
So the shroud is something that blocks it.
Precisely. The Shroud of Killian is a natural occurrence, maybe a nebula or some dark cosmic body, that aligns to temporarily block the energy or vision of that eye. When the eye is blind, Dmon-Li's own plane is less guarded, making it the perfect, necessary window for the giant lord to manifest fully in this world.
So it's a cosmic timer. And they're running out of time.
They are, and Zyrn and the scavengers, terrified by this greenish star, abandon everything and rush back to their village. But they discover the horror wasn't limited to the immediate blast site. The fallout is localized, but it is devastating. Zyrn gets back to his village to find family members, Kaleem and Ibala, are missing.
Overwhelmed by fear, he leads a torch-lit search party back toward the battlefield.
And what they find is it's pure body horror. They find a missing young man dead on his stomach. When Zyrn turns him over,
his skin is entirely gray and sagging like wax held too close to heat. Even his eyes and pupils are gray.
It's a shocking, totally alien sight, indescribable to the people of this world.
And as they search more, they realize the phenomenon it's active, it's spreading.
The ground itself starts to shimmer and shift in this really unsettling way. This is their first direct contact with the grayness, a shimmering gray sand that appears to have already consumed Ibala and other dead victims.
And Zyrn acts fast. He marks its perimeter with swords, he pushes into the ground, just to confirm his fear.
And he's right, the grayness is spreading.
He manages to establish a terrifying metric, doesn't he? The rate of advance.
About 6 feet per day, and it maintains a consistent, almost perfectly circular shape. It's slow, but it's utterly relentless, inexorable.
And the fear of this silent, consuming void immediately just shatters the social order in their village.
Absolutely. The villagers, already driven mad by fear and the alien nature of this doom, they panic.
And they're misguided by superstition, led by a man named Maki. They accuse Kaleem, who is still missing, of bringing this doom on them.
They believe the gods are angry.
Which leads to this moment of just utter tragic terror. They resolve to appease their gods by sacrificing Kaleem to the grayness itself.
It's a desperate, horrific act. They genuinely believe that only his death, being consumed within the gray, will stop its spread.
It just highlights how quickly fear can devolve into madness and superstition when you're faced with something that defies all known magic or nature.
Zyrn is horrified. He calls it madness, but he can't stop them in time. And the grayness continues its silent, terrifying expansion.
And this human sacrifice, driven by terror, is the exact situation James walks into. So while this grayness is expanding, James and his party are already on the road trying to track Tinok, but they have to pivot to deal with Miko's dreams.
And these aren't just, normal dreams. They're divine sendings, powerful, magically significant visions.
Miko has two recurring dreams.
Both involve a temple radiating this brilliant, almost painful light, which James immediately connects to the High Temple of Morcyth in the City of Light.
The connection is pretty direct, right? Miko holds the Star of Morcyth, and the new prophecy they got mentions that the light of knowledge will be at his side.
The dreams are a coded, urgent message Miko has to decode.
But the light in the dreams is always being challenged by darkness?
Always. The dreams of both James, who often dreams of finding Cassie and Pinok at a bizarre carnival, and Miko, consistently involve their goal being violently threatened by shadows or dark forces.
James specifically describes the darkness in Miko's vision as burning like acid against his protective barrier.
And this is where we see the team's reliance on all their disparate knowledge. Scar, the very pragmatic raider, reveals a technique for dream infiltration.
James, even though he's weak, successfully uses it to project himself into Miko's vision.
He experiences the blinding light and that invading darkness firsthand.
Okay, let's pause on dream infiltration because that sounds revolutionary. He's not just observing, he's entering the dream. What's the mechanical difference between what a normal mage does trying to scry a dream and this specific technique?
The difference is precision and projection. Normal dream scrying is passive. You're just observing vague images from the outside.
Right.
Dream infiltration, as Scar provides it, involves using focused mental energy to create a specific temporary link between two minds. It allows James to project his conscious self into Miko's subconscious landscape.
So it takes massive mental discipline.
And a subtle manipulation of the psychic threads connecting conscious beings. James is surprised later on when he wonders if Igor was secretly supplying this highly specific advanced information to Scar, indicates that this knowledge is way outside the standard magical curriculum of this world. It's high-level psychic engineering.
The urgency of Miko's visions directs them to the City of Light, to the destroyed Morcyth Temple.
Right. And when Miko enters the ruins, he realizes the entire pedestal where the star should have been was chiseled off centuries ago.
But Miko, acting on pure instinct, places the Star of Morcyth onto a section of a ruined column nearby.
And this action unlocks the entire future of the faith. The column section slides back into the floor, revealing the Book of Morcyth, which has been hidden for generations.
And Brother Willim, seeing this, understands its profound spiritual significance.
He exclaims that they have just witnessed the sanctifying of a high priest.
So Miko, the former street brat, who only recently learned about the deeper elements of his faith, is now, by divine sign and prophetic fulfillment, the legitimate high priest of Morcyth.
The keeper of the faith and the most powerful religious leader in all of Madoc.
It's a staggering transformation.
The ultimate example of the right person being in the right place at the right time, guided by prophecy.
Speaking of immense power, let's look at James. He's supposed to be the most powerful mage, but after that last battle, he is seriously hampered.
He is. He's weak, achy, suffering from power backlashes from his fight with the other mages. It limits his magical abilities drastically.
His ability set is pretty much reduced to his orb and some very limited mirror scrying for Tinok.
And the mirror scrying is failing them when they need it most. It keeps coming up blank or just indicating that Tinok is simply too far away to pinpoint with any accuracy.
This forces James to rely on a much older, more primitive tracking method, the cloth trick.
The sources mention this a lot.
So what exactly is this trick, and why is it considered primitive?
Well, the cloth trick is a form of sympathetic magic. It relies on proximity and intense concentration, a method used by, lower-level hedge mages.
Yeah.
It involves taking a piece of cloth, something worn or touched often by the target, and enchanting it to sense the direction of that person.
So it's primitive because it doesn't give you distance, just direction.
Exactly, and it's easily fouled by other magic in the area or by great distances. James contrasts this with the custom-made, magically attuned compass he regrets not having built while they were safe at the ranch.
A piece of sophisticated magical technology he helped design.
This struggle is vital, I think. It reminds us that James isn't some infallible wizard. He is a man of science who is adapting under extreme pressure.
He's physically weak, magically limited, and has to depend on both primitive methods and these high-level theoretical concepts, like the dream infiltration technique.
And the dream-sharing discovery is a perfect example of his innovation under pressure. It's a sophisticated tool that lets him gain vital information through a non-traditional magical avenue. He's forced to adapt and use his limited reserves in highly focused, strategic ways instead of just relying on his usual brute force.
Hmm. But that brute force is exactly what's going to be required to confront the grayness. Zyrn leads James and his party to the grayness, which is still advancing. This shimmering gray area has already claimed victims. The grim, indistinct lumps within the mass are the remains of Kaleem and the others.
And James's immediate observation is key. He recognizes this is not traditional magic.
He sets up a magical barrier around himself, Jiron, and Brother Willim. The gray mass surges over it, trying to get in.
But James observes that the material is hardly causing me any problems. It's almost as if it isn't even there.
And this lack of magical resistance is his first big clue.
And this is where James's technological background, his scientific mind, comes into play, leading to that massive insight. He's synthesizing physics from his home world with the metaphysics of this one.
So what allows him to conclude this is a physical rip, powered by electricity rather than a magical entity.
It's the sensation of energy that Brother Willim detects. The priest perceives these traces of energy within the grayness, describing it like sap running through a tree.
Okay.
James, interpreting this, immediately rejects the idea of it being magical energy, which usually feels hot or cold or resonant. He concludes that this flow is rapid, uniform, and constant, which matches the signature of electrical pulses.
So the grayness isn't a creature or a spell. It's a localized manifestation of a massive dimensional tear, a void in this plane.
And those electrical pulses are the raw energy signature bleeding through from Dmon-Li's plane.
He realizes the gray sand texture is purely superficial, a chameleon effect. It just absorbed the gray aspect of the explosion remnants nearby. The problem is a physical tear in reality, not a curse.
So James pivots from magical defense to applied physics. His closure strategy is magnificent. He struggles to summon moisture to this arid desert to create storm clouds.
He's feeling the intense strain of holding the barrier and pulling clouds from miles away.
His plan is to use concentrated lightning strikes-focused electrical energy to increase the polarity at the void center.
The goal being to neutralize the opposing electrical pulses that are holding the rip open and basically stitch the dimensional tear shut.
The description of the lightning strikes is visceral. They are mammoth, knocking Jiron and Brother Willim off their feet. James senses that the pulses temporarily stop and the void shrinks dramatically.
But the success is fleeting.
The underlying pulses immediately resume, and the void pushes back to its original size instantly.
So he realizes lightning isn't enough. The power bleeding through is too vast. He needs something else.
Not just electricity, but tremendous, instantaneous, overwhelming firepower to incinerate the entity holding the tear open from their side.
Generating that power while maintaining the barrier is impossible on his own, which leads to this strategic reliance on Miko.
Precisely. James uses his mirror to contact Miko, instructing him to build a massive, concentrated fire outside the barrier's perimeter.
And James then acts as a magical siphon, drawing upon this external fire source, generating a second barrier of pure, focused heat and energy that completely encompasses the creature within the void.
This is James using his full potential, pulling massive amounts of energy to incinerate the entity. The final act results in a massive blast, instantly killing the void.
And leaving behind a vast field of solidified glass, its bones, covering over 6 square miles.
The reaction of the villagers is, well, classically human. Zyrn and the survivors are elated, the existential threat is gone, and they immediately shift to entrepreneurship.
They start figuring out how to harvest the glass, which they think will make them rich.
But James pays an immediate price. He's left severely weakened and burned, specifically around his scalp.
And Miko, now the functioning high priest, uses the Star of Morcyth to heal him, showing the star's power.
But Miko can't restore the hair. James is left temporarily bald where the burn was, a strange, physically visible price for stopping an extra-dimensional catastrophe.
That must have been a highly awkward moment for the hero.
It is a memorable scar, reminding him and us of the physical cost of his powers, even when used for good.
With the grayness threat neutralized and Miko officially sanctioned as high priest, the group returns to their primary and, frankly, emotionally draining mission, finding Tinok.
This is where the narrative shifts from large-scale magic battles to gritty, street-level espionage.
They travel through the uninhabited desert near the Maddock border, dressed in native garb to enter the Empire unnoticed.
Their entire success relies on stealth and on their interpreter, Rylan, a reader who is fluent in the Empire's language. They have to maintain this facade of boredom and deference to avoid any suspicion.
And the harsh reality of the Empire hits them hard in Inciala.
Oh, yeah. While staying at an inn, Miko, using his enhanced senses post-sanctifying, he senses a death. Notes it felt wrong.
They investigate a room upstairs, find a man killed, a woman stabbed, and their child missing. A clear signature of slave traders.
This incident forces James to act swiftly, but he has to balance their main mission with immediate justice and maintain operational security.
To secure their escape and guarantee their eventual return to the innkeeper, who was, understandably, hostile to Sally, James uses this as a clever hostage strategy.
He leaves Brother Willim, Miko, Stig, and Rylan behind as human collateral.
He and Jiron pursue the slave traders, and they successfully rescue the missing boy, Aku. After returning him and questioning the mother, James asks her about Cassie's heart-shaped necklace with the 2 stones, hoping for a clue.
The mother denies seeing it, but James, ever observant, later finds that necklace among the captured slave traders' belongings,
Securing a solid, if very dangerous, lead.
But before they continue that pursuit, we do have to circle back to a critical sequence that ensured the safety of their vital allies.
Right, the keep rescue.
James and Perilyn, having followed Buka's demand, which we'll get to in a second, were later captured and interrogated by Corgan and his men at an inn in Hyrith.
They were manacled to the wall. James had to rely on his unique constitution, just feigning unconsciousness after being drugged while he mentally planned their escape.
And Corgan was focused on Perilyn, trying to extract information about the Empire official, Lord Coleraine.
Jiron and the others, realizing their allies were taken to the keep, staged this brilliant and massive fire distraction.
It drew away most of the keep's forces, exactly as Perilyn predicted it would.
The assault itself was precise. Jiron and Alea broke in, and Alea, showing her incredible archery skill, disarmed Corgan by shooting him directly in the shoulder.
This timing was crucial. It disrupted the interrogation just as Corgan's knife raked across Perilyn's throat.
Brother Willim and Miko then used magic and special leaves to counteract the drugs and heal Perilyn's throat injury.
And James, his magic finally returning, used his sphere to incinerate soldiers on the stairs and created a ceiling barrier to buy them time.
He also took the calculated step of unlocking all the other cells, allowing the prisoners to escape and create the chaos they needed to flee.
A successful rescue that saved Perilyn, who would be essential later, and ensured their operational capacity stayed intact.
Okay, so back on the trail. James insists on bypassing the highly fortified city of Corazon.
He trusts his less-than-perfect cloth trick over Jiron's desire to search every corner. He argues that if Tinok were there, his primitive spell should have located him by now.
James prevails, prioritizing stealth, arguing that stopping in Corazon would just invite detection.
And they're forced to stop when James spots a score of riders in his mirror, which just confirms the continued desperate need for caution. The Empire's eyes are everywhere.
Their next stop is Merak, where they leverage Perilyn's contacts. Jiron, Stig, and Rylan visit the headquarters of the Order of the Scarlet Sword.
A secretive guild made up mainly of soldiers and weaponsmiths.
They meet Ohan, a jovial but cagey member, who explains the internal tension.
The Order is viewed suspiciously by the powerful eyes of the Empire, the Emperor's notorious intelligence service. They think they're spies for the Old Kingdoms.
Yet, the Order is protected by high-ranking military commanders who value their skills. For outsiders like Jiron, though, the threat is high.
Jiron eventually meets with Azku, a tense member of the Order, at a bridge marked by red lanterns.
And Azku is brutally direct. He warns Jiron that the eyes of the Empire are currently operating heavily in the city.
And he reveals the key information about the necklace. It came from a man named Grill, who purchased it from a woman in Inziala.
The trail is narrowing fast. James and Jiron track down the woman, the sister of the barmaid, at the Split Naval Tavern.
She tearfully explains she sold the necklace for quick coins to feed her son, and she confirms the man who sold it to Grill was a notorious slaver named Buka located in Sist.
This moment provides such a sharp contrast to the brutal reality of the Empire. James, moved by her desperate poverty and realizing she's a victim, not an agent of evil, he doesn't just toss her a few coins.
No, he offers her a genuine path to a new life. He tells her to contact Aelin Blackhawk at Zyrn, promising to use his hard-won favor to find her work and safety there.
It's a moment of profound, strategic kindness that reinforces James's identity as a hero who's committed to nation-building, not just world-saving. Sist is the final dark destination on this physical trail. They locate the slaver compound.
James and Jiron break into Buka's private room, finding him entertaining two slave girls. Buka, rather than panicking, remains utterly calm. He states he's at their mercy but shows no fear.
Which is a huge red flag.
A massive one. Jiron demands information about Tinok. Buka agrees to share what he knows, but only in exchange for a favor.
And the price he names is gruesome. And James immediately understands this is personal.
Buka requires the right hand of a man named Kerr, a bard currently performing at the Wallowing Swine Tavern.
And crucially, Buka insists the hand must be taken during the performance, witnessed by his men, to prevent any kind of switch.
James immediately realizes that Kerr is actually Perilin, his old friend and master of disguise.
So this isn't just a favor. It's an assassination contract, intended to be carried out by James's group.
Driven by the vendetta of James's old enemy, Corgan, against Perilin and his connection to the political upheavals in the Empire.
This is a massive moral compromise, and Jiron takes the full weight of it.
There's no other path to Tinok. Jiron agrees to the horrific terms, determined to find their friend.
They track down Perilin, who confirms his identity, and then things get deeply, darkly theatrical.
Perilin, understanding the extreme risk he faces from the Empire's highest officials, willingly participates in a ruse so dramatic it's frankly disgusting. He needs to convince hardened slaver agents of his mutilation.
Let's detail the mechanics of the deception for the listener, because it's brilliant.
Perilin hides a pig bladder full of blood under his arm.
The pig bladder.
A pig bladder, yeah. And he attaches a section of intestine, which looks convincingly like sinew under his shirt, leading to a dead slave's hand extended from his sleeve.
It's genius in a really dark way.
During his performance, Jiron pretends to attack him, severing the fake hand. Perilin squeezes the pig bladder, causing the blood to spray convincingly across the stage. He's screaming, collapsing in pain.
It's high-risk theater, and Jiron has to execute the move with absolute conviction and brutality.
The slavers' men are completely convinced. Jiron and James meet Buka at the compound gate and hand over the severed limb.
Buka, satisfied that Perilin is now crippled and useless to the Empire's higher-ups, fulfills his end of the bargain.
And he reveals the final, damning truth. Tinok was taken to Ithziril, the high temple of Dmon-Li,
which confirms Brother Willim's gravest fears. Tinok isn't just a prisoner. He is destined for sacrifice in a place from which none return, under the watchful dark eye of the entity itself. The moment Tinok's location is confirmed, the stakes just skyrocket. They know they're running out of time because of that celestial timer, the Shroud of Killian.
It will blind the Giant's eye in just a few more days, signaling the critical window for Dmon-Li's Lord manifest fully. They have to move fast.
Their journey takes them directly to the temple complex, which is shrouded in the mists of sorrow.
A cold, dense, moving fog. The atmosphere is immediately unnatural and deeply unsettling.
Brother Willim, who is so attuned to the life force around them, he notes that the entire area is devoid of life.
He can't sense any birds or beasts. It's an ecological dead zone created by Dmon-Li's influence.
And they immediately face the first barrier, an attack by monstrous hellhounds.
Creatures that radiate this extreme, debilitating heat alongside warrior priests.
And Miko, using the Star of Morcyth, proves his worth as the High Priest. He creates a clear island of light within the mist, allowing them to fight back.
The battle reveals a terrible vulnerability. Cuts do not hurt the hellhounds. They're quasi-physical entities. Only blunt force or the star's searing, pure light can destroy them.
Stig is thrown backward a dozen yards by one of them, and one of their horses is just ripped to shreds.
James realizes they're severely outmatched in a prolonged, conventional fight.
This brutal confrontation forces James into deep introspection. He finally confronts the source of his unbelievable magical power, the very thing that has to save them.
He confesses his profound moral struggle to Brother Willim.
James describes his core ability, the leeching sphere. He details how it sucks life and power, not just magical energy, but vital force from people and everything nearby.
And he then uses this stolen energy to generate his signature powers. Barriers, fire, explosions. He asks Brother Willim, the ultimate representative of the light, if it is wrong to steal the life that the gods have given them.
This is the crux of James's entire character arc, isn't it? He is a savior who has to kill by consuming the life force of others. That's a constant psychological toll.
Brother Willim, the priest of Asran, provides this masterful piece of spiritual counsel. He distinguishes James's actions from those of pure evil.
He acknowledges that taking life is inherently wrong, but survival often necessitates it. He references killing animals for food or a soldier in defense.
The important distinction, he tells James, is the choosing.
The priest explains that James is struggling to find a better alternative, suffering under the weight of his destructive power. He is constantly seeking to minimize the cost.
In contrast, Dmon-Li's followers rejoice in destruction and choose it willingly. That constant internal moral struggle is what prevents James from becoming the very monster he fights.
And this counsel gives James the justification he needs to act.
In the subsequent skirmish in the mists, James employs the devastating leech by 100 spheres and expands their radius to 4 times the size, causing soldiers to drop quickly.
He uses this power even as he questions its source, prioritizing the survival of his friends over his moral dilemma in the face of Dmon-Li's immediate consuming evil. After barely surviving the mists, James has the necessary breakthrough idea. They can't fight their way to Zyrn.
They have to find a teleportation dais at another Dmon-Li temple to reach the High Temple quickly. He remembers using a dais before that took him to a place filled with small, shrieking creatures,
Which he now realizes must have been Zyrn.
So they pivot their focus to the large temple complex in Zixton, known for training acolytes and being an obvious hub for Dmon-Li's network. James is determined to use the dais as an automatic transport.
To get close to the center of power, James takes the massive risk of posing as a slave.
This is a profound moment of vulnerability. Brother Willim prepares a mixture to darken James's white, pale skin, and James wears only a loincloth.
He feels intensely self-conscious and exposed, especially with the magical scar, the bald spot from the grayness battle.
He is led to the slave master, who reveals a vital secret. He's the only known person to have escaped the Dmon-Li temple after being a slave there.
And the slave master confirms that a specific temple key is needed to control the dais' destination. But here's the critical shortcut.
Without the key, the dais automatically transports the user to Zyrn.
So James receives a detailed diagram of the Zixton temple complex from the slave master.
Jiron and the others scout guard routes and temple layouts, while James, Miko, and Brother Willim plan the infiltration using a secret door and passage.
And the timing is paramount. The night of the dark moon, when the shroud blinds the giant's eye and the ritual is planned.
Following the diagram, the small party navigates these treacherous secret corridors, including one containing deadly spikes. They successfully decipher the annotations on the diagram, realizing they relate to activating hidden doors, ensuring their infiltration was flawless.
Stepping onto the dais, James, Jiron, Miko, and Brother Willim, they are instantaneously transported to the cold, massive cavern beneath Zyrn.
An ominous, dark red glow emanates from an object floating 2 feet off the floor, ringed by magical symbols. This is the gate.
And they witness Ozgirath performing the dark ritual to open a permanent gate to Dmon-Li's plane.
He uses a 1.5 foot long, wicked-looking dagger, sacrificing captured men, including those Jiron saw being brought in earlier.
And Tinok is next in line, held fast by a warrior priest.
Chaos erupts. Jiron races along the cavern wall, trying to edge closer to Tinok for a physical rescue. James and Miko focus on stopping the ritual, the source of the evil.
But Miko is incapacitated by a devastating hit from a warrior priest. Brother Willim frantically asks if their warrior priest will come.
But James knows they are alone.
And James faces this ultimate impossible realization. To stop the coming of Dmon-Li's lord, the giant, he has to destroy the gate itself.
The conduit to their plane, his normal leeching spheres, won't be enough to destroy a dimensional rip held open by divine power. He needs a fuse of unimaginable purity and strength.
He makes the heart-stopping decision. He forces the Star of Morcyth, the symbol of the Morcyth faith, the source of light, the spiritual anchor for Miko and Brother Willim, into one of his power barriers.
Calling on Morcyth for aid, he raises the combined power source high, a blend of ultimate destructive power and ultimate spiritual light.
He meets Jiron's frantic gaze, the fear receding only to be replaced by a profound, terrible finality. He instructs Jiron, who has reached Tinok, to flee immediately with Tinok and the unconscious Miko.
And James says the final, heartbreaking farewell, a simple, raw acknowledgement of their shared journey. It's been fun.
Then, the moment of climax. Jinwoo causes his life-leeching sphere, now combined with the Star of Morcyth, to explode directly within the core of the gate.
This generates an immense, catastrophic backlash of power. The energy travels along the invisible power streams connecting Dmon-Li's temples across the continent, utterly destroying the High Temple.
And as James later confirms, it causes reciprocal explosions at virtually every connected temple.
The sheer audacity using the temple network against itself is what ultimately neutralized Dmon-Li's influence on the world. The price, however, was meant to be James's own life. James wakes up not in a pile of rubble, but in an unfamiliar yet strangely familiar place.
Likely Earth, or his home plane's representation of it. And he's greeted by Igor, the mysterious man who has guided his journey.
Igor confirms the staggering magnitude of James's sacrifice. The sphere's explosion utterly destroyed Dmon-Li's high temple at Ith-Zerol and caused massive reciprocal explosions at every connected temple.
Dmon-Li's influence is shattered. Igor assures James it will take centuries, perhaps, for the entity to regain its foothold, if it ever does.
And crucially, Igor confirms the Star of Morcyth, the object of spiritual purity, survived the blast. It is still there, beneath the rubble.
Which confirms that James's act was one of strategic destruction coupled with divine intention. The light survived the destruction it fueled.
Igor then presents James with the ultimate choice. He shows James an archway leading directly back to his grandparents' home on Earth,
offering him the chance to return to the life he left behind. His core mission complete. The world is saved.
And the sources, through the subsequent actions, imply James makes the decision to stay.
The survivors are accounted for, allowing us to gauge the cost of this victory.
Tinok is solemn, but he's alive, rescued by Jiron. Miko is the functioning high priest of Morcyth, the faith having been physically reborn through the destruction of its dark rival.
And Pfeiffer, who suffered an earlier injury in the conflict, is alive, though he lost a leg.
The main existential threat is gone, and the hero has survived his suicidal mission, choosing his new world over his old one.
The saga culminates, as all great epics should, in a joyous celebration. A wedding ceremony that feels like the ultimate punctuation mark on their long, brutal triumph.
The setting is communal and reflects the new world they fought for. Miko, the high priest, performs the ceremony.
And we get that great moment of levity. He looks somewhat comical in the ceremonial robes he had custom-made, based on a centuries-old description in the Book of Morcyth.
Oh, you have to love that detail. The image of Miko, who was literally a street urchin days ago, trying to look majestic in slightly ill-fitting, historically accurate robes, is just perfect.
Scar and Potbelly find the sight hilarious,
leading to their assignment as guards at the outer door, likely to prevent them from distracting the priest with their laughter.
The list of attendees confirms the establishment of Madoc's new foundation. Lord Pthirian, Ilan Blackhawk, now secured as a nobleman, Brother Willim, Delia, Tursa, Tinok, solemn but present.
The core team of Shorty, Stig, Rylan, and the recruits. They've even taken Aku, the slave boy rescued early in the journey, into their family. Zyrn, the first person James met on this world, is also present,
which connects the full arc of the story.
The celebration honors two couples, symbolizing hope and continuity. Jiron and Leia are married and are expecting their first child. Literal new life in a free land.
And finally, James marries Meliana. Given the context of the entire saga, his journey to find the person he loved, his repeated dreams of Cassie at the carnival, and the immense sacrifices made, it is overwhelmingly implied that Meliana is indeed Cassie.
The culmination of his heroic journey and the reward for his persistence.
And his legacy is secured. James is recognized as the person most responsible for gaining Madoc her freedom, his deeds celebrated in taverns across the land.
The man who struggled with the ethical burden of his terrifying power is now revered as a hero.
It is the ultimate hero's legacy. Saving the world through a final strategic act of annihilation, surviving that moment, and finding his ultimate reward and grounding in a new life, a new family, and a new freedom he helped secure. What an incredible journey. We saw Miko rise from street urchin to high priest through divine action, James struggle with the morality of his leeching power while facing down dimensional annihilation.
And the existential threat of Dmon-Li erased by a single, desperate, world-altering explosion fueled by both destruction and light.
The sheer audacity of that final move, using a teleportation dais as a suicidal fuse and forcing the Star of Morcyth into his power barrier, it just demonstrates James's terrifying willingness to embrace his destructive potential for the greater good.
It solidifies his role as a force of adaptation and overwhelming power when faced with the absolute end.
So what does this all mean for the future? The Dmon-Li threat is neutralized, Madoc is free, and the new High Priest of Morcyth has literally presided over the wedding of the hero who brought peace.
Well, consider the power Miko now holds as High Priest of Morcyth, Guardian of the Star, juxtaposed with the immense, morally compromising, destructive power James wields. Dmon-Li's temple is rubble, but the star still exists. Now that the world has been reset by catastrophic magic, the question for you, the listener, is this. Which of these two paths to power Miko's path of knowledge and spiritual light or James's path of application and strategic destruction will truly shape the new future of this world? And what kind of ethical burden will Miko face now that his faith has been built on the ruins of absolute magical warfare?